Circle R Ranch. I am here with Jeff and John. Say something, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hi.
See, they're here. I'm not lying to you. My son, Nate. Yell something, Nate.
What's up?
And my good friend, Mr. John McClain, is visiting us from Las Vegas, Nevada. And he's got this old song that we were just banging around on. He is holding
That we wrote how many years ago?
We figured it was 30 years ago that we wrote this. 30 years.
It was actually in excess of 30.
Yeah, probably, because the record's 30 years old this year.
Yeah.
Is it 94, 95?
I think we finished it in 94 and mastered it and released it in 95, if memory serves.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Play it. It's fun.
All right. As much as I remember. Take the strings and twist them up. One end of a hand is caught. Pull it out and start again. Around and holding back again. We twist and turn, we tie the knots. Peer over, see what you have got. Maybe happy, maybe not. So twist and turn, untie the knots. String to wait around to see. String is not like you and me. It needs us for its dirty work. Tie the knot to make it work. We twist and turn, we tie the knot. Peer over, see what you have got. Maybe happy, maybe not. So twist and turn, untie the knot.
I'm just going to play some lead, right?
Do it.
So we don't have to worry about that pesky key change.
What's a key change?
Remember the last verse?
No.
We don't need that.
Around to see. String, it's not like you and me. Strings sometimes become knots. That's good or bad, which one you got? We'll twist and turn, we tie the knot. That works. Peer over, see what you have got. Maybe happy, maybe not. So twist and turn, untie the knot. How are we gonna escape?
Like that.
Perfect.
Perform like two guys that haven't played together in 30 years.
Yeah.
No, it hasn't been that long, actually.
No, it hasn't.
We-
You guys came out to Vegas for my 40th.
We did. We're not going to talk about how long ago that was.
19 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Next year's the big year, right?
Next year's big year.
Oh, shit.
You know, I'm
Bose and I
celebrating-
should come out to Vegas for your 60th.
You should.
We absolutely should.
I have an interesting way I'm celebrating, though.
Can't wait to hear it.
I am going to do a rim to rim in the Grand Canyon in one day. So start on the south rim, drop to the bottom, hike up on the north rim. It's like 22 miles and about 11,000 feet of elevation gain and loss in hopefully less than 12 hours.
I did that last week.
Did you?
No,
Good man.
no. Wow, man, that's incredible. So our history is as such. So in the late 80s and early 90s, I was in a band called the Culture Bandits in Detroit with my best friend Jason Bose. on bass, and crazy bastard Terry Bradley on drums, who went on to do a bunch of great shit, including like Goober and the Peas, Queen Bee. He and I think he teaches now up in the Detroit area somewhere. I bounce into him occasionally every once in a while, and then you had a band called the Hula Poppers with a drummer that I knew, Paul Haynes, and Paul played in Standing Shadows.
Standing Shadows,
that
which
was
I actually
band?
sang for them very briefly.
Okay.
Yeah, with Steve Presti.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Steve is still going strong. So it's funny how these people that you meet in your life you end up bouncing into over. But Steve still has a studio, and he is recording the current Suicide Machines record and recorded the last record.
Right on.
And it's phenomenal. If you guys haven't heard, obviously I'm a big fan of the Suicide Machines because of some guy, Mr. Navarro, who I have to. We're playing at Smalls tonight, by the way. I'll remind you later. So when Terry left the Culture Bandits, or the Culture Bandits fell apart, or whatever the hell happened there. And then you had the Hula Poppers going, and your bass player and guitar player
left. We had just won the what was the alternative radio station in Windsor?
89X.
89X. So we had just won the 89X Demo Derby.
Demo Derby. Wow. There's something I haven't thought about
cassette.
in a long time.
And then they got in an argument at practice.
Oh, boy.
And walked out, and then we found out we won the Demo Derby, so they agreed to bury the hatchet long enough to play the show at Pine Knob, where we opened for Concrete Blonde and Too Much Joy.
Rad.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that. And then, so those guys were out, and Jason and I were looking for something to do, and you guys wanted to keep going off of the success of the Demo Derby.
Demo Derby.
And the four of us got together, and it was... it's just one of those things. I look back on that time and that record that we recorded as some of the most creative I ever was on the guitar. It was this thing. When I was doing the band before that, I was doing more of like a punk metal thing. And when I started playing with you guys, I started infusing this sort of Knopfler thing that I still do, the playing with my fingers thing, in with this sort of attitude of the music. And it's weird for somebody to sit around and think about their own playing. But I mean, I can trace so much of what I still do on guitar to the lick in that song that we just played, which is why I asked you if you still remembered it.
Okay.
Because this string skipping, that's like a thing I enjoy. And I work it into a lot of stuff even to this day. And we got that record put together, and we were really proud of it. And then you got a job opportunity. So in the early 90s, you were working at, what was the name of the studio in Southfield?
Ron Rose Productions.
Ron Rose Productions. Are they still around?
Virtually.
Yeah, well.
They lost their building.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you had an opportunity to go to Vegas.
Yeah, a guy walked up to me in the halls of the studio one afternoon and said, "You like mountains, don't you?" And later in the day told me that there was a company out of Virginia that wanted to build a studio in Vegas.
And at the time, there wasn't really a commercial studio in Vegas.
Not for the work that I do, the post-production work, no.
Yeah. So you moved in 90s?
We left Detroit in December of 95.
Wow.
Yeah, got to Vegas like the eve of New Year's Eve.
And you've been there ever since?
Ever since, love it. It's a frickin' great town, man.
How long did you spend working for the company that moved you out there?
7 years.
7 years.
He was a total prick.
Wow. For the record.
Yeah.
On the record. Happens.
Yeah.
Happens.
Yeah.
That's what.
But you know what? I got to thank him because he got me out west, and I love it.
Yeah. I have, a similar experience. I got into that car business with the guy who ended up being a total prick, but I learned so much from him, about running a business and the do's and the don'ts and things like that.
Right.
That I have built on that experience the whole time. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a similar thing.
Very similar.
That's
Yeah.
cool. So you broke off on your own in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I because of my connections to Detroit, I got called to record voiceover for some Dodge neon spots in Las Vegas. And the voiceover artist happened to be a comedian named George Carlin.
Okay.
And apparently he liked me because about 2 months later, I got a call from his producer saying, hey, George wants to record his album with you.
Wow.
So we recorded a spoken word album called Napalm and Silly Putty. And it got a Grammy nomination, but it didn't win. And then about a year later, he came back to record a spoken word album called More Napalm and Silly Putty. And it won a Grammy. And about that time, I was ready to leave, and I'd been building my own studio on the side. And so I took my little Grammy certificate and my ball and my bat, and I went home.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that having that on your resume,
2003.
having that on your resume
Didn't suck.
doesn't hurt,
Yeah.
right? And so you started the Dog and Pony Show,
Yep.
and now it is
Monster Sound and Picture.
okay.
So in 18, the guy who was the entertainment director at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas, turned out he was also a former touring musician and composer, was looking for a studio space. So he rented some space from me. He's from Rochester Hills.
Sure.
Played with Uncle Kracker, Kid Rock, toured with the Verve Pipe.
Wow.
Good guitar player, really talented.
We just had the Verve Pipes tour manager in that seat 2 weeks ago.
No, so Darren would know him. His name's Darren Trentacost. Good dude. So anyway, he came in, rented some studio space. Then the pandemic hit, and he's like, you know what? I don't want to do corporate world anymore. And so we decided to partner up, and now we're Monster Sound and Picture.
And what are you working on now?
I'm currently doing all of the dialogue edit, Foley, sound design, and mixing for a feature film called Action Action that was shot in Vegas.
Cool.
Yeah, it's super fun. They blow up a house, and there's a car chase, and
that's fun.
gunfights and fist fights. And,
Okay.
you know, I think most people don't know what's encompassed in the building of a movie soundtrack. So all of that stuff that you see on screen doesn't actually get recorded when they record the film. The people with the microphones only record the dialogue. So I do everything from the footsteps and the clothing movements to the gun sounds to the bang bangs of the pew pew of the guns to the ricochets to all that stuff.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's
you have a
stupid fun.
sound library that you draw from, and
Sound library, samplers. I go out and record things. It's just whatever it takes.
rad.
Yeah, it's fun.
Uh,
I still laugh that in fourth grade, Mrs. Anderson would yell at me for banging on my desk, and now people pay me to bang on my desk.
That's great.
Yeah. Sorry, I bumped the microphone.
No, and now you bang on the microphone.
Yeah.
What? And then there's been TV work too. There's Emmys, right? To go. You have an
Yeah.
Emmy to go with your Grammy.
I have 4 Emmys. HB won 2 for HBO's 24/7 boxing series, and I won 2 for PBS.
And what were the PBS shows?
The show called Outdoor Nevada, where
Okay.
they have a host and they go all over in the wilderness.
That seems right up your alley.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another one, it was a documentary about the African American experience in Las Vegas.
Really?
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because back in the day, when the Rat Pack was a thing, there was only one casino that Sammy Davis Jr. could legitimately play in.
That's
So messed up, but it was a great story.
that just seems so crazy.
Yeah.
And that's a generation ahead of us.
Right?
It isn't like that's 100 years ago or 200 years
that's
ago or
our
whatever.
parents' generation.
That's our parents' generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
Yep.
Weird. Huh. So that had to be fantastically interesting to work on.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So how do you get... I'm just going to keep asking you weird questions.
Ask me questions.
And if you guys have any questions for John, and we're going to talk about the Used Guitars world in here in a second too, and I have some other stuff to show you, but if you have any questions for John about production or whatever, fire away, man. I've got some good regulars on this show that, and some, obviously a lot of our friends are watching, which is kind of fun.
That is cool.
But if you, so I'm going to ask the question, what's George like? What was he like? I mean,
Nothing like his stage persona.
He
was like super down to earth, cool guy, drove himself. The most fascinating thing about him to me was that he had like 3 or 4 books that were about this thick, full of material. And in a week of recording, he only referenced the material once. He did almost the entire album from memory. And I've never seen anyone drink so much caffeine-free Diet Coke in one sitting.
Was he a Vegas guy?
Yeah.
He lived there?
Lived there.
Yeah.
Drove himself around. He had a Toyota 4Runner didn't even have the windows blacked out.
I'm not surprised. And a lot of comedians and musicians in that, when they start to hit that generation, just stay there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you run into a lot of people in Vegas. I ran into, what's his name, the actor from Leaving Las Vegas. And
Nicolas Cage?
Nicolas Cage. You run into him everywhere. I ran into him at a Chuck E. Cheese kid's birthday party. It's kind of strange, man.
What do you, just random questions for you. What do you think of the Detroit casino in Vegas, having lived here and then you go to this reproduction of it?
I create all their radio advertising,
Do you?
they make me very happy.
Nice, nice. Do you give them pointers when they're looking to redo stuff? Have you had Coney's there and said, yeah, you're not really getting this right. You need to,
You talking about the MGM Casino in Detroit or the D in
the D
downtown?
in Vegas?
Oh yeah, I've worked with that guy too, Derek Stevens. He's very nice. No, I think he's killing it, man.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always think it's funny when people from here tell me that they're going there. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I kind of want to pop in and check out and see what it's like, But
I'm very happy that he brought Coney Island to Vegas because there wasn't one prior to that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I get my Coney fix without leaving town.
And have you played it all since we parted? Other than we've done a few reunion shows. I remember we played your 40th birthday party.
We played around your 40th here.
Yeah, Jason and I turned 40 in the same year.
Yeah.
So you came out and we played at our old stomping grounds, the New Way Bar in Ferndale. And Kevin, the drummer, the old drummer for the Zimmerman Twins, learned all of our stuff. And Kevin was amazing at hearing a song once and being able to play it on the drums and knowing all the changes and stuff.
I remember.
He is a great drummer. I haven't seen Kevin in a while. I actually saw him at, he worked for us for a little while here.
Okay, cool.
And then I ran into him at a Henry Rollins show. Henry Rollins came through the area last fall. That was the last time I saw him. But yeah, fantastic drummer. And then other than farting around, you were in a pretty cool band in Vegas for a minute, if I recall, with a female singer or something. What was that?
Garage Mahal. Yeah, it was fun. It was like a little Americana thing. We had 3 singers doing harmonies, mainly did covers. It was fun. It kind of petered out because everybody's busy with life.
Yeah, sure.
But it's a good time. But that's really the only thing that I played in since I left.
Okay.
Yeah. Paul was living there for a little while, our old drummer.
Yeah.
And he and I tried to put a couple things together, but that didn't work. He's down outside of Prescott, Arizona now.
Yeah, I see him on the Intergoogles.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, you don't do a lot of Intergoogles. Just enough to keep your business going.
I'm a social media lurker.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, that's something that we've all had to learn. Penny's gotten very good at it.
Good for her.
And I'm okay at it, but we have a lot of things to promote. I'm still actively performing in 3 bands, and I've been traveling all over the place.
Jay Navarro and
the Traders,
Twins,
the Zimmerman Twins,
Polka Floyd?
and the Polka Floyd Show.
Yeah.
And the Polka Floyd Show usually gets busy in the fall. We added a new member recently, a classmate of Nate's, Isabella Ulzak. She's 20 years old. She can absolutely destroy the Great Gig in the Sky.
Awesome.
She's amazing.
Very cool.
And so, and then it's nice having her in the band because she can take all those high harmonies and I don't have to do it anymore. So, I can last 3 sets without blowing my voice out now, which is great. And we really enjoy having her. And then Jay Navarro and the Traders put out a record last year on Bad Time Records. We've had a handful of the Bad Time bands here, us, Kill Lincoln, We're working on getting We Are the Union into the studio. I'd love to get the Suicide Machines into the studio. We're talking about doing some stuff with them. So we have kind of there's a fun thing going on with us and that record label. And the
What's the
thing that
label
I'm the
again?
most proud of, what's that?
What's the label again?
It's called Bad Time Records.
Bad Time Records.
And
okay.
it's run by the guy who plays guitar in Kill Lincoln. But most of the bands on the label play Reverence. And the cool thing is, a lot of them were doing it before I got involved.
Oh, nice.
Which is great, right?
Yeah,
and we've always
yeah.
been friends with Reed for We Are the Union and Ricky, their lead player, and they've had Reverence for a long time. And then Jer has his own band and plays in We Are the Union, and he does a thing called the Skatoon Network, which is on Instagram and TikTok and has hundreds of thousands of followers. And it is very entertaining and totally worth checking out. And there's a lot of Reverend Guitars and Reverend Basses there. And then, of course, the Machines we share Navarro with, and they're using Reverend stuff. Justin, their guitar player, is. So it's a lot of fun. And,
Well,
I've gotten into this weird thing where I go to all these ska festivals, and because so many bands are playing Reverends, I go to festivals and set up a little booth and sit and get to hang out with all my friends and my artists, and it's
right.
a really fun thing.
You're living your dream life.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. How long have you had Reverend now?
Since 2010.
2010. Okay.
Yeah.
And you were working for Joe prior to that,
Yes.
right?
Yep,
Yeah.
sales manager.
Okay.
Yeah. Things just worked out around 2010 where Joe just taxes and payroll and importing and exporting and all of the paperwork of the business had completely taken over his creative mind in the business. And he wanted to design, he's a master luthier and an incredible graphic designer. And he wanted to make things like this, and he was spending more and more time at his desk and getting more and more frustrated with it.
Yeah.
And we just worked out a thing in between us where I took over the business and then hired him back as our creative director, and he designs guitars and all of these guitars that you see us doing, like with Billy Corgan, Reeves Gabrels, the new thing that we have coming out this year, which is amazing, which most everybody knows anyway because he keeps playing it on stage, even though we haven't officially announced it yet. But Joe can deep dive into these artist guitars and work with the artists to get them done down to the minutest detail. And this is a Rick Vito signature, and Rick, Jackson Browne, Bob Seger, Fleetwood Mac, and then he has his own thing that he does that he's brilliant at.
I saw Rick with you in Nashville a few years back.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
He is. I forgot you came out to that Nashville NAMM show.
You guys snuck Declan in when he was 11 years old.
This is his latest thing. This is a Bigsby. We were talking about that
Right,
earlier.
yeah.
So there's the fun, the soft touch spring, but with the custom binding and everything, and this guitar has been very popular, and I love this orchid pink
Yeah, the
hue.
pink is super cool.
Naylor just nailed this. It is the right color pink.
Yeah. I love hearing this because he deserves to just have fun and be creative. That's awesome.
And since 2010, right away within the first couple years, he started doing the best work of his career. The whole line of basses came very quickly. Those Pete Anderson East Siders came, the original Rick Vito classic, and then we started getting more involved with Reeves, and the Reeves Gabrels Space Hawk, I think, is still one of his. When Reeves got the gig in The Cure, we had his signature model, which worked on a handful of the Cure things, but he wanted a more Cure appropriate guitar and something that he could shred on, but yet could fulfill that sort of semi-hollow, clean, chimey tone thing that he really needed for the Cure clean sounds. And I sat and watched he and Joe create the Space Hawk together, and it was fascinating.
Nice.
Joe has this way of these artists tell him things that don't make any sense to me. I've told this story a million times. I'm going to tell it again. When we were working on the Billy Corgan, we had the guitar done. We had the body, the design, the colors, the neck shape. Everything was finished, and we were working on the pickups, the rail hammers. And Billy says to Joe, I love the mid-range and the string-to-string clarity. Like you can really hear every note in complicated chords, even with tons of gain, because the Pumpkins is a heavily distorted thing. And then he says, but it's missing a little bit of that like Sabbath mud thing, that like that girth thing. And we're standing on stage at Pine Knob, listening to the guitar through his stage rig, at sound check. And he's saying this, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, are you saying you really like the clarity, but you want it to be dirtier? And I'm thinking, and Naylor's just like, yep. And we walk away, and I'm like, what do you make of that? And Joe's like, oh, I totally know what he's talking about. I got it. And Joe goes home, and 2 days later, he calls me. I got it. I'm sending him some prototype pickups right now. 2 days later, Billy emails us, yep, this is it. I have no idea what happened there.
Do you hear it, though?
Which is why, totally.
Yeah.
But how Joe changes the magnet and changes the winding or changes the thickness of the wire and knows exactly what needs to happen underneath of this cover to get from point A to point B.
Like he knows how the pickup does frequency response, and so he dials it in, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't. I sell stuff. And I play and I enjoy
salesman.
it. Well, but that is why all of that has sort of led to us. Joe and I worked together really, really well. Excellent. And Joe and I worked for him part-time for 6 or 7 years with the old instruments, and we became best friends doing that. And then he hired me, and that didn't ruin our friendship. And then I hired him, and that didn't ruin our friendship. And he is still one of the people on the planet that I enjoy the most. I just love spending time because he's hilarious.
Yeah.
And we just operate on the same frequency. So it's been, I think that can be really hard. And partnerships in business can be really
pain
hard.
In the ass. Yeah.
But there's things that I just defer to him about. If I get a technical question or something, what do you think? And he tells me, and I do it. And the same thing works the other way around. We have that thing. So
yeah, I totally dig. I mean, that's how I feel with my business partner. Yeah, you got some overlap, and then you got your own little silo that you handle.
Right. Yep. Right. And Penny too. When Penny came in and started taking over the advertising and the social media almost right away, and there was a lot of butting heads between the two of them at first, because you're used to like doing things your way, and then when somebody else is doing it, and then once we figured out how to sort of be successful, then they were able to let that go too.
Sure. Once you see it working.
Once you see it working, right, and then it all smooths out, and so it's really cool.
Good for you, man. It's really fun to see your success.
Well, it's really fun for me to see your success too. That's why I thought it would be fun to have you here when you said you were coming to town, because it's like we just don't get to see each other often enough.
No, we don't. No.
And I want everybody to know that you're a huge part of my history. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ditto.
Yeah.
You were talking about getting together the first time, and I still remember looking out the front windows of the house and seeing you and Jason walk across the lawn, and I think Paul and Dawn were standing there, and I was like, Ken's tall.
Really? I've heard this.
Yeah. Once or twice.
Yeah. Yep. Still tall, John.
Yeah.
Still tall.
Right.
I know. I can remember walking into the house and thinking, wow, John's old.
You dropped this.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's true.
And here we are.
True. But you know what? It beats the opposite.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah. You better believe it. And you are so active with all the hiking and stuff. I can't believe it. I mean, I was telling you a little bit earlier, because one of my bikes is here. It's like I fluctuate in weight like 20 pounds every year. I exercise and maintain it all summer long. And then as soon as winter hits, I just...
Well, you got into what, jiu-jitsu?
I was doing Kempo. I was doing karate for a little while.
Yeah.
I pretty much stopped doing that when we started building this studio. Getting this done, like... I'm making excuses right now, and I want you to understand that.
I totally
I know
get it.
I'm making excuses, but I mean, Jeff and I spent every spare minute for 3 months building this room. And when we would do the work that we had to do up front, and then we would be back here doing something. And I was in here all weekend, every weekend doing something. All of this soundproofing we made, you know, it was the stage, obviously. Takes time.
Yeah.
And it got me out of the habit. The karate studio is right across Central Avenue. And it got me out of the habit of going there, and I quit going there.
Yeah, you got to build that habit.
Yeah.
I haven't boxed in months. I got into boxing for a while. I haven't done that in months because of stuff.
Yeah. What do we, there's something that I need to do work-wise.
Do it.
Can you hand me that red guitar over there?
Absolutely.
I think this was for Matt. I'm not sure, but somebody was asking me about the red buckshot and wanting me to show it off here on the show. So here we go. This is the buckshot in Party Red. This is one of Naylor's designs from 2008. I think we launched the original buckshot prototypes. Roasted maple neck, rosewood fingerboard. This is what we call a grease UT. So this is telly style single coil, but it's a ceramic thing. It's a little bit hotter than your typical telly. And the thing that's fun about it is, I won't touch the volume to mess with John. I saw John reaching for the fader. I'll leave it, John. The thing that's really cool about this guitar is this pickup being mounted right into the body with like a Gibson style tunematic bridge. It hits a different frequency range than like your traditional Telecaster. It's a lot warmer, and so even on the bridge pickup alone with all the controls up, but all of the Reverends, of course, feature the bass contour control. So if you're looking for that more traditional sound, you can just roll the bass right out of the guitar. And there it is.
That's cool because it's really warm in the lower mids without that. Yeah.
And you can hear the bass roll in. And as opposed to having like a coil tap splits a humbucker. This is a single coil, and this control works on the single coil. So it doesn't actually add any frequencies, it just removes low frequencies in a similar to the way that traditional tone control removes the high frequencies, right? So it makes the guitar very, very versatile. And then this is our mini humbucker, we call it a retro blast, and it's real warm. And the mixing the two is my favorite. Real chimey for strummy stuff, and then it takes gain really well. I don't know what's going to happen when I press this pedal. Just heads up. That's both pickups on the bridge. That cuts through a mix.
That's pretty sweet.
Single coil hum, right? Gotta love it. And the neck pickup alone, that's where I would, if we were live, I would be.
Yeah, that jogs my memory.
I like that. There you go. This is a
Sweet.
Buckshot Party Red. I just bought this amp in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. This is a 1974 Vibrolux Reverb. And it has been, the caps have been replaced, so it's good to go. And it needed a rectifier tube, but all the other tubes, the preamp tubes and the power amp tubes, are the original RCAs that came with this amp.
No way.
Yeah, isn't that neat?
Wow.
And they tested them, and they're like, I mean, they could be replaced, but if
Why?
It's working,
Yeah.
why, right?
If it ain't
beautiful.
broke.
I thought it would be a fun thing to have here, and I was right.
Yes.
I love the vibrato on these. Right? And the reverb. Oh, there it is. You just can't get that out of a pedal.
That's pretty sweet reverb.
Close, Nate? I'm in the wrong key, probably. For gift shop?
Oh, yeah, I think it's K. Hold on a second.
Nathan and I are both still huge Tragically Hip fans and still listen to them and talk about them all the time and follow everything
Great
that they're
band.
doing on social media now.
Still remember when we all went down to see them
Shane Park.
at Shane Park?
Yeah.
And that,
Fully, completely tour, by the way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember that we were talking to that girl from Toronto in the line to get a beer? And she, whatever the radio station was, 96 had run a special. And you
Okay.
could buy the tickets through them for 96 cents. And we all got our tickets super cheap. And I was sitting there in the line talking to her while she was getting a beer. And I think Dawn was with me. And because she screamed, like a scream of horror. She said she paid 250 Canadian to come down from Toronto and see the Hip. And we had paid 96 cents for our ticket.
Well, that's about the exchange rate now.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah. Sorry, Canada. I'm just kidding. I don't need any
Listen,
Canada hate.
They
And then John was playing. Pick that up again. This is the Reverend Roundhouse Semi-Hollow, which is available at Specialty Traders in sunny, beautiful West Virginia. And we did a custom run of semi-hollow manta rays and roundhouses that our friend Jay at Specialty Traders just bought them all. And it was like a one-time run, 25 of each. And I know he still has them. So we have been dragging this guitar around. Nate and I took this guitar up north last weekend and played. I kept one because I keep things.
I was going to say, that's what you do, right?
Pretty much. Pretty much. And I really enjoy that guitar. I'm going to trade with you. You could just step on that tuner there.
Right there.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, violin brown back. That, and this does that real singy thing too, with the gain on the. Let's put this reverb back on, and then hit that.
Ooh, that's nice.
That's the neck pickup. And the rock pickup. He gets spoiled with this guitar. It weighs like 6 pounds. And it does, I mean, the solid body version of the Roundhouse, I've been asked a lot about the difference between the two. And the solid body version, you get more initial attack and sustain, especially on the bridge pickup, it's noticeable. And the semi-hollow just adds this sort of airiness to it that's really, really pretty. With both pickups on, I mean. Roundhouse. There, talked about guitars. A couple of bangers. Anybody have any questions for either of us out there? Jeff, John, before we wrap this up and go away? Oh, John is pointing. John says, you know what you need to talk about?
Don't drop your mic back yet.
And John is right. I won't. I promise. I promise I won't.
Don't do it.
Look, I'm taking it with me, man. All right? Check this out. This just launched last
this
week.
is the new bag.
This
I
is the
saw
new
it.
bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. We finally got some. We've been offering these teardrop cases, hard shell cases, for years, and they're very brand defining. I mean, you see that two-tone
I have
case.
one.
Yeah. You have one of the original ones with your. John has a Hot Shot Junior, by the way.
In lime green.
You see that case and you know what's coming in.
Yeah.
And I'm always excited when I go out and see teardrop case. Like I go out to the bar and I'm minding my own business and somebody walks in with the teardrop case. I'm like, check it out. And I wanted to duplicate that with the gig bag, and it just took us a really long time to find somebody to do it right. And when we started getting serious about doing gig bags a few years ago, most places, by the time we got done customizing them, they cost as much or more than the hard shells. And so that didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. And we finally came across the right manufacturer. And I'm going to tell you the whole story because I think it's super cool. But first off, I mean, they're very, very heavily padded. The rims are very heavily padded. There's some inserts here so that we can use a couple of different guitar models will fit in the guitar, whether or not you need that.
Is that like a Velcro neck holder?
Yep.
Oh, that's
And
really
this,
sweet.
This also is adjustable. This moves
Right.
within here, and then that will hold the neck in place. This is the standard size guitar one, which fits all the Senseis, Jetstreams, Chargers, all of that stuff. We're doing a specific one for a baritone. We're doing a bass one and a large semi-hollow one that fits the airwaves and stuff. The bass one fits the Dub Kings, so the sizing is slightly different than the sizing for the hard shell cases. So if you're going to get one of these, just look on the website and make sure that you're picking the right one for the instrument that you have, because with the hard shell cases, the Dub King bass and the Lynn Lee basses in particular, you saw Lynn Lee at Punk Rock Bowling. She is the bass player for Bad Cop, Bad Cop.
It's funny that you bring that up because I wanted to comment on your logo because we were back a ways while Bad Cop was playing, but I noticed the logo on the guitar, and I texted you right from the show. I'm like, dude, band's playing your guitars.
Yeah,
They
awesome.
were great.
Oh, they're really good.
God.
Yeah, they have been friends of ours for many years. So, like, even when the kids were smaller, I used to take Nate's sisters, plural, to Warped Tour every year when that was a thing. And Bad Cop was one of the bands that always used to get us into Warped Tour and let me bring my kids to go hang out and give the kids backstage passes. And I remember them telling my daughters, just don't hesitate to go backstage and take as much water as you want to. Just and I always thought that was really cool.
Very
because
cool.
Most people, and these guys know how to behave around musicians and stay. I mean, they've been around it their whole entire lives.
Sure.
But those guys have always been amazing with us. So anyway, back to the bags. This is really cool. So a former guy that used to work for one of the big brands who I'm friends with, big guitar brands, called me and told me he was working with a gig bag company. And he heard I wanted to do something, and I told him that I wanted teardrops and I wanted two-tone, And I got some samples with some like canvas sides and then this sort of faux leather vinyl sides, and we picked the features that we wanted, including like the backpack thing. I have a bin full of these detachable backpack straps that I'm too dumb to throw away, but they have I never use them like that, so when they offered me this thing that you can just take these straps and...
Yeah, my luggage backpack does this. This
Yeah.
is the way to fly.
Yeah, and then they're not flopping all over, getting in the way, but... and then I love having this little handle on the back, too, that you can carry it like this, especially when you're in the airport, because if you're pulling a roller bag, you can put the guitar right on top of the roller bag and go, which happens often. Once we nailed down all the specifics of everything that we wanted with the bag, and we got some samples, this is all stitched, it's all real nice. Naylor and I were happy with the samples, and we ordered our first shipment of them, and they come from India, okay? And we go to the NAMM show in January, and the gentleman who we were working with to put all this together, Jonathan, says, oh, I'd like to introduce you to the people that are making your bags, and they have a couple of the prototypes in their booth, and they'd asked if that was okay, and I'm like, of course.
Very cool.
And we go for like 5 years, 20 years ago.
No way.
We used to be over in the B Hall, and
Small world.
And they were like, oh, Mr. Joe, Mr. Cat, I can't believe we're finally doing this, and Joe and I were both like, whoa, it didn't even occur to us, because you meet so many people across this industry that it's just fantastic that it turns out to be people that we already have a relationship with, that we're friends with, and they've done excellent work. We just got the first shipment in a week and a half ago. and they're already, you saw them, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's been a long time coming, and I think they're really cool.
I love that the logo is stitched on and not just.
Me too, I dig it.
Yeah.
All right, John,
Badass.
thanks for reminding me. I did want to, it was important for me that I show this to everybody. Wow, we've been on for a long time.
Have we?
We have, like 45, 50 minutes. Can you
But-
believe that?
Maybe we were just really enjoyable to watch. What do you
I
think?
hopefully. Does anybody, now we're going to see, does anybody have any questions?
Not really. No, we do have Peter Shorn. Says,
Pete.
Hi, John. Greetings from Sue Static and me.
Excellent.
Hula
Hey,
Poppers rocked.
thank you, Pete and Sue.
RAWK.
Yeah.
There was one about one of the guitars.
Yeah. I mean, somebody's asking, Greg was asking about what the guitars are. You mostly covered the, you
Yeah,
covered
the only thing I didn't really talk about was I've got my trusty Jetstream HB sitting next to me. This is just one of my favorites. I love the neck on this one. All of these guitars that we have, well, the Buckshot and the Jetstream and the Vito were all at NAMM with me this year. So I can get any of these guitars out to any of your dealers if you're interested in a NAMM guitar. They're hanging around because I consider them demos. Because they were played at the NAMM show, and then I've been playing this guitar. I've got a real affinity for black guitars lately. There's just something about it.
You remember that white X-shaped guitar that we had way back in the day?
The Explorer?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
course.
guy that worked with me for a long time, James, he's playing one of those with a band called Velvet Chains.
Nice.
Yeah. Just funny, because I showed him pictures of that years ago, and he's like, look what I found.
It's probably the same one.
Could be,
Yeah.
right? With the same belt groove on the back.
Yeah. All right. What are these guys? Look at them. They're powwowing over here.
Well, we got Madi. He's from Italy.
Oh, yeah.
Saying hi from Italy.
Hey, what's up, bud?
He's going to Nashville soon. Do you have any recommendations for him and his dad?
Robert's Western Wear. That is
Robert's
that's
Western World.
What? Yeah, Robert's. Is it Western World?
Western World, right?
It was Western Wear. That's why there's boots on the wall. Now it's Western World.
That's my. Broadway has gotten a little crazy with like bachelorette parties and stuff like that, and I don't have a lot of patience for downtown Nashville anymore as much as I used to. But Roberts, I think the general rule is you're not allowed to perform a song that was written after 1970.
That's a good rule.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the bands there just, if you're playing there, you deserve to be, and so you can't go wrong with Roberts. And cheap PBR right on the strip,
Yep.
What's the little suburb that Vanderbilt University in has some really good food in their little downtown area, too?
Oh, that's. I was just there like 2 weeks ago.
John goes down there quite a bit. John, you have any recommendations for him outside of
John.
outside of Roberts?
We went to Dee's Country Cocktail Lounge.
Okay.
That was a great spot with cool.
Do you guys
actual country musicians? Hi.
still go square dancing at the VFW?
I've never been there on a Tuesday.
Okay.
Dave Martin says it's jumped the shark, but it's probably still pretty cool. It's not cool enough for him anymore.
Oh, okay, Dave. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. What else you got?
That's it.
Then we're out. John, thanks for coming.
Thank you, my
It was a
friend.
pleasure, man.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Wicked awesome. And I will be back coming up. Jay Navarro and the Traders are playing at Smalls in Detroit tonight for the Boss Barbecue. And I think we're 4th out of 5 bands or 5th out of 6 bands or some crazy shit like that. But there's going to be food down there. It is the local Detroit ska festival thing. It's going to be a good time. The other bands are great. Dirty Notion is amazing, badass sets.
All ages,
The Crombies, all ages. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then next week, I'm really looking forward to this. Next Thursday, I am heading out to Long Island. I will be at Monster Music in Levittown. My good buddy Brian Reardon has been a Reverend dealer. I bet we're 18 years now. I think 2006, 2007, he came on. And he's got a great store out there in Levittown, and he stocks a good 60, 70 of our guitars at any given time. And always has. And so he's definitely one of our like East Coast anchor stores, Sam Ash used to carry us. You know, and we had him listed as a
I
dealer.
remember
And
you,
no
you
offense,
came
know,
out to
Sam
the
Ash
one
was-
in Vegas, yeah.
And they're gone. Weird. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Crazy to think that a company that size went under. But you know, you go into a Sam Ash and they'd have like 4 or 5 of my guitars, and then you go into Monster Music and there's 50 of them. You know, so it's always been great to have Brian out there as like the go-to, because Long Island obviously has what, 13 million people.
Yeah, there's a couple of folks there.
Yeah, right. And so when somebody from that area would call me, it's nice to have somewhere to send them where they can see them all. Anyways, we work with an artist named Gil Paris. Have you ever seen Gil? I think maybe
I haven't.
he used to come to us to the NAMM show in California quite a bit.
Okay.
And play Muriel Anderson's All-Star Guitar Night. He did that every other year for a few years. Fantastic jazz artist from New York City who does a really interesting mixture of traditional jazz and modern blues. He's the guy that knows every chord, and he does like a Jeff Beck thing sometimes, and he's just a ridiculously good guitar
Muriel
player.
Anderson, she plays that.
The harp guitar thing, yeah.
So that's how I got into the Garage Mahal, was through a Muriel Anderson show, and those guys know her.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Small world, man.
That is.
That's crazy.
It is. Yeah, the music industry is
It's crazy.
It is. It's weird. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyways, Gil and I are doing a clinic next Thursday at Monster Music in New York.
Very cool.
We just did a custom run for Gil. I don't have one. I teased the guitar in talking about this show, and then I don't have one here because Monster bought them all. But he did a limited run of Club Kings with humbuckers and black headstocks in Silverburst. They're gorgeous. And it is the Gil Paris limited signature Club King for Monster Music. It's got a really long title. It's up on the website if you want to check it out. And Gil and I are going to play them. We're going to talk about, Gil and I have been working together for 20 years as well. We'll talk about all of that. And then Gil is going to play at Monster. It's going to be awesome. So I will see you next Thursday in New York if you're watching from New York. And so I won't be here next Friday, because next Friday morning at this time I'll be flying home. So I will be back 2 weeks from today, and we will take it from there. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you 2 weeks from today from this very stage. See you.
Cheers.